Man, we got all kinds of people on Scoopy Radio, musicians, athletes, Hall of Famers, McDonald's All Americans. No different here as we got my main man, Myck Kabongo, 2011 McDonald's All American. Brother, what's going on?
Man, good to have me, Scoop. I'm great. Can't call it out of the way. Blessed to be alive. Grateful that I'm here and hopefully help the next generation on a better path than I had to endure.
Or as they say in the church, blessed and highly favored.
Yes, sir. Yes, indeed. I could attest to that. Amen to that.
Not only did you have a plentiful career, about 10 plus years, you also represent the DR in
Yeah.
FIFA play, correct?
Yep, yep. And also Canadian, probably one of the first youngest player in Canadian history to wear that jersey when I was 16. And then obviously asking Steve Nash and Rowan Barrett to go on over to play for DRC back in 2017 and been with that team ever since.
What was that conversation with Steve Nash like when you wanted to switch over to the DR?
Well, Steve was like my uncle. That's what people don't know. I spent a lot of summers with him and his kids working on my game for multiple times when I was a player. So me and his relationship is very, very tight to this day. As like a mentor, someone I look up to. And Rowan Bear was one of the people that always followed my career throughout high school. So it was a little tougher to have a conversation with him when he wanted me to necessarily play for Canada. But I felt like it was big for my people to go back home and see me in the flesh. Because I think I opened up a door now for a lot to start coming after. You see a lot of players now going back to play in Africa. Now there's an Africa League in Africa as well. So it's kind of cool to be a trendsetter. I've always been that my whole life. So it's kind of cool to see now that Jonathan Kuminga's wanting to play with us, being one of my teammates as well. So it's kind of cool that people are going back to their origin countries to play and represent them.
How would you imagine if Jonathan Kuminga were to play with you guys, his role on that team would be different than what he does in the NBA? Like, do you feel like he'd be more of a Karl Towns than an Al Horford, or do you see something completely different?
For us, like he played with us like 2 summers ago when we were in that qualifiers, that window, and he possibly will play again this summer. But the game that I seen from him was just someone that's like, he's a tweener of like a 3-4, like a Braun, and you know what I mean? He's so athletic. The African game is built on athleticism as well, and he just fits the mold of that type of style of play. Just a freak athlete, naturally gifted. But on our team, he gets a chance now to get the ball off the rim and go and create, and we get ISOs for him to kind of show his offensive package because he's very, very talented. Guy's only 20 years old, 21, if that, scratching the surface of his basketball potential. So it's kind of cool that with our national team, he's like Steph Curry. We just let him go.
I like that, Mike. Over Scoopy Radio, brother. I'll be honest with you. You're sounding more and more like a coach. You just got your paperwork and all your coursework done,
Yeah.
continuing education. Any interest in coaching on the next level?
Definitely. That's something that I actually want to speak with you about. Like, I think I'm at that point where I've done enough in the game to retire. I've kind of just, you want to kind of give yourself a little fitting room to see what avenue you want to take after you finish playing. It's hard for players to figure out what you want to do after you've been playing, especially if you've been bleeding blood, sweat, and tears into it, like I have. And for me, I was like, all right, I want to be around the game. What is it? And then I found the same passion and the drive and the fire that I have in playing and seeing a kid. I coach different levels now. I can coach from a novice level to a pro level. And then you just see the joy that you do when you have something on the court that you draw out and they execute it, or it's something that a drill that you put them through that was pretty hard and grieving to get through, but they get through it. That's the joy that you want to see when you are in this coaching space, the improvement from your players, not only on the court, but off the court as well, because there is life after basketball, and that's what I'm figuring out. So definitely, I played for great Hall of Fame coaches. I played for Coach Pop my rookie year at the Spurs. Being around him, being Danny Hurley, a Hall of Famer, shout out to you winning your second natty, going for his third, and Coach Barnes. So these are Hall of Famer guys that I've learned from that I think can propel me if I come into this coaching space, which I'm pretty much ready to do.
I think if this coaching thing doesn't work out for you, I can see a career in television, because you are segueing before the thought that I was actually going to convey. It's probably the point guard in you. You throwing lobs to me. With that being said, you talk about Hurley. That's that tutelage going to St. Benedicts in Newark, New Jersey. What did you learn playing in his system that prepared you for life?
One is no one's gonna give a shit. Excuse my language. No one's gonna give a shit. And he was someone, before the social media era, I think he was an NBA prospect, and he had his fallings and his stuff. The way that it went in Seton Hall, the way his stuff went down Seton Hall, he was not really happy with it. So he attacked the coaching on that fire and that drive, and he put it in and installed it on his team. Like, the culture over there is no one's gonna care, so might as well dominate. Fun is dominating. That's what he's always said. Like, fun is going to be the team by 20. That's how you have fun and how you work. You can never cheat the game. What you put in is what you're going to get out. And I remember being in Newark, New Jersey, 14, 15 years old, waking up for 6 a.m. workouts, then coming back after school, doing it again, then playing all day. A lot of these kids ain't doing that like we did back in the day. And you could just tell the fire that we played with, from that cloth. So that's what he installed in me. And you could see it in his UConn teams going back to back, just dominating. As you can see, they won with a margin of about 14 to 15 points. That kind of dominance is what he preaches to his team and also his coaching staff. And you can tell it just trickles down to every single body that's with that university.
You spent time at St. Benedict's, but you also went to Finley Prep in Las Vegas, Nevada. What or how did you and Tristan Thompson both hear about St. Benedict's, and why did you pick to go there?
So we were always, Junior Cadogan, who's a pioneering candidate, for those that you guys that don't know, was a great guard that went to Marquette, was one of the first pioneers to kind of just lead Canada and go to the prep school in the States. And when we saw his success that he was getting, we were just like, yeah, we know that our game over here in Canada is not being, I would say, viewed as serious competition, So we were like, we want to play against the best, because we felt like we were the best. So we always knew when we were at the AU Circus Markets, we'd go play in some tournaments in North Carolina, whatever it may be, and we'd always place. So we're like, you know what, let's see if we can go for a full year and be away in school. And St. Benedict's was one of the options because of the pedigree that they had with the J.R. Smiths, the Samardo Samuels. You hear about the stories of guys that went through that program. So we're like, all right, if we can go and, do and go or come close to what they have done, I think we'll be in a position to make basketball our life. And that's what we kind of thought out to do. And then St. Benedict's gave us that scholarship. My mom really didn't want me to go. I had to beg her and plead because, you're 14, leaving the house is tough. But she saw the vision that I had, and then the rest was history.
J.R. Smith, one of the notables to come out of St. Benedict's. You guys lived in dorms. What was your interaction with J.R. Smith when you were at St. Benedict's? Even though he was
So I'm one of the younger ones. So I caught when Samardo was a senior and I was a freshman. So Samardo was the one that was with JR. And you always hear the JR stories. One of, I think, the most talented high school players ever when it comes to high school basketball in America. When you speak of J.R. Smith, you hear about the Steph logo threes. He was doing that back in the day. He was shooting from half. He had unlimited athleticism, can put it through the legs, 360 windmill, complete package of a game. But then, of course, the off-court situations and issues arise. But when you take the talent alone and you just speak about the game, he's up there with all the greats.
I like that answer. I remember your freshman year at Texas with Tristan, and I remember just seeing that team. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was a game at the Garden, and you guys played Maryland, and Grievous Vasquez was playing.
Oh man, you see, you got me a year behind. See, that's the thing. Everyone always thinks me and T and Corey are the same year. That's the year before me. So I was the senior in that year, but that game was insane. They should have won that game.
You remember that game?
I wish I reclassed. I wish I ended up coming a year earlier and out, because I would have been playing with my boys. But when I got to college, Corey and Tristan had already, said their goodbyes and went on through the draft process and going and enter into the 2011 NBA draft.
Listen, I'm curious. Tristan talks a lot of shit. And it's interesting because Draymond Green talks a lot of sugar honey iced tea.
Right.
And I think people look at Draymond sometimes and think he's tougher, and that Tristan was just a little soft because he's more soft-spoken, but he's taller.
Right.
My question is two-part. One, was he always that guy that could throw hands? And
Right.
two, do you know the real story behind Draymond and Tristan and that fight that they had?
Oh, so a couple things. One, Double T, that's like twin, So if you know me, you know where I come from. I'm from tougher part of the city. And for me, with him, he's always had that toughness in him. His dad's a Yadman, so if you know what a Yadman is, he's Jamaican. So ain't nothing soft and sweet about those people.
Mm-hmm.
So some people get, it twisted and not understand that everywhere worldwide there are some tough people, rather you come from the hood or not, small, tall, big. And anytime your manhood is tested, now following up to your Draymond question, you're going to stand up for yourself. And obviously, Draymond has a reputation. I know of him a little bit, you hear about it, but I know T as well, and I know he ain't backing down. And especially who's in his corner, right? You have strong people in your corner, strong people in your corner. You're never going to back down. But all I can say is it's not as sweet as people had thought if Draymond and Tristan fought. I'll tell you that much.
I'm listening. What else?
Besides that, I'll just say this: Draymond didn't want the smoke that way. We'll keep it there. Yeah,
Okay.
We'll keep it there. He don't want that. And if it revisits again, and he has to speak to me, we'll put it out. You don't want to speak to me about that. That's my brother, and I have him to the end of it. Yeah.
Draymond
coming from a 6'3" point guard. You can put that out there.
Yeah, Draymond, your podcast, you moving around. I'm cool with him, but I'm cool with you too. But ultimately,
ultimately, we try to push the culture forward. That's all we are, right? We're a brotherhood at the end of the day. But at the end of the day, when someone's, manlyhood is tested and that's my brother, I'm always going to go to war for my brother. Just like I'm pretty sure there are people on that end that's going to go for their brother as well. But at the end of the day, if it's between the lines, let's keep it there. But if things are said that are going to go beyond the line and it gets there, don't be surprised with what comes with it. You know what I mean?
Sure. Learn me something, as my late grandmother would say. You talked about Steve Nash, and him being like an uncle to you. Guys like R.J. Barrett, he's his godfather. But I'm not Canadian. I'm American, but I've heard this a lot, and I know it's used in lexicon. And when people say things enough, it becomes or it seems to be true. So you're more than qualified to answer this question. Do you agree with the notion that Steve Nash and Vince Carter really birthed a generation of Canadian basketball players?
Without a doubt. And if you don't agree, then you probably weren't around to see the magnitude of the impact. First of all, the impact that they had. I mean, the cool passes. I mean, the passing, the play, seeing the play before the play, the hockey assists, just things that he was doing before his time. The fast pace playing, the way the Phoenix Suns were playing back in the day. The 0.5 basketball, making quick decisions that now we see in the league today that a lot of teams are playing off of. And he was a trendsetter for a lot of that. 2-time MVP. We never seen that from a guard position and someone that looked like him and coming from where he was from. And his story was always been the underdog story. So to see it at that level was always great and gave our country great pride when it came to Steve Nash. Now, Vince Carter he was next level when it came to us wanting to be like him. I mean, just talk about the and-one shoes, remember the and-ones, the half shoes. Mm-hmm. All of us got that after the dunk off.
High cheese.
Yeah, all of us were rocking it after the dunk off. And just the things that that's why he gets booed still, because we loved him so much. And I don't think he understood what he meant to us. But we need to hurry up and go ahead and retire his jersey. I don't know what's taking so long, but the Raptors organization, Toronto, if you're listening, hurry up and do that, because that man has birthed not only myself, but I think I can vouch for everyone else, all of the Canadian NBA players that are out there right now.
Is Vince Carter Toronto or Canada at largest Michael Jordan?
It's still Vince. It's still Vince over here, because we got to remember, we have this notion of nobody wants to be in Toronto. Of course, a lot has changed with the culture, Drake being a big part of that, now putting a certain light on the city that was not quite here before. But when it comes to Vince Carter and Canada and Toronto as a whole, I think if you put on a poll, everyone would still vote Vince Carter and the impact that he's had on the whole country and city.
But in Canada, from your vantage point, is Kyle Lowry and Kawhi considered Mr. Canada because they won a championship and because of the game streak, or is Vince still in another class?
I think Kyle and them, they brought the first banner, which is great. I think Kai has cemented himself as, he's up there as far as a favorite Raptor. You're around, you read the things online, but you see it and you see his welcome. And when he comes back, Kawhi, same thing, even though it was a rental year. But the way he left was a little distasteful for some people, but you can't blame him. He didn't want to be here to begin with. So, but when it comes to Vince, no one can top that, man. Let's be honest. What he did goes beyond winning a championship. That's like, he made Toronto cool. He made Toronto cool and no one knew what Toronto was, and he put us on the map for sure.
Speaking of Toronto and being cool, what did you know Drake before Drake was famous?
For sure. Yes.
Tell me more.
One talented rapper, great team. That's the thing that people don't understand. He's a great team, great unit. These guys have been moving together since way back then. So to see it, if anything, to see where he is today with the same people, you gotta tip your hat off to that. But this is someone that never, I said, stay stagnant. It's someone that's always evolved, always grown. If we talk in basketball terms, he started just with a hook shot, but then ended up being a guy that could shoot it on the three, the guy that could probably just guard the five, but now he's switching 1 through 5. That's if I had to put in the basketball terms of what Drake is. It's someone that has always evolved each and every year, and it's endless with him. It's endless.
What were your interactions with him like?
Always love. Actually, when I was suspended and they had the tour out in Austin, he came out there in my jersey on, made sure he showed me love, and UT faithful showed him love back. It's always, I know not too long ago I seen him in Miami, so it's always love. I was playing with the CEBL, their team out here in Toronto, the Scarborough Shooting Stars last year. We won the championship out there, came to games, and Nico, who's his best friend, who was our manager and owner, someone that's very heavily involved in his career and his manager. They've just seemed to obviously found different branches and different outlets to be involved in the culture, and now they're doing it in sports. So it's always cool to see what they got going next.
You were in a very interesting bracket as far as your classification here. 2011, being an All-American, being teammates with Tristan, and also, if I'm not mistaken, because you play the same Benedicts, you also played against Kyrie Irving at some point at St. Pat's, correct?
Yeah.
Some people have said that Kyrie, when he was at Duke, played like Steph Curry before Steph Curry's evolution in 2015 and beyond. But then in high school, a lot of people compared Kai to Chris Paul and his ability on the court. Back in high school, what did you see?
Me and Kai had our battles. If Kai see this, I think he can say I was probably one of his toughest matchups. He's my for sure toughest matchup, but when it comes to the ranks, I want to see. I want to see if you ask that question to him and see what comes up. But we had our battles. Mike Gilchrist too. Shout out to him, one of my good friends who battled as well at St. Pat's. They've always had a great team. Kevin Boyle's a hell of a coach. They have a great system going on there. But what I see from him, again, the evolution, he's one of those players that I think that if you try to categorize him, he's going to tell you can't. If you kind of try and tell Kai he can't do something, he's one of those guys like, all right, cool, bet, I'm going to show you. So that's what I respect about him. You heard the noise. He was a locker room cancer. What did he come back with? He's having a hell of a year over there in Dallas. So that's what I want to, people to know about Kai. He's one of those, all right, you say something negative about me, I'm going to show you in a positive light of who I really am, because the media sometimes can portray a certain thing about an individual, and you might not know that individual personally, but because you have that outlet and that machine behind you, the masses start to believe it. So then it starts messing with your head as a basketball player. But he's one of those that I think he blocks the noise, which you really have to do as a basketball player. The youngins that are coming up really, really take in what I'm about to say. Block the noise, because the noise is only going to get louder and harder the higher the level you get. It's the more that you can have a good tight-knit circle and make sure you block the noise and keep these blinds like this, like a horse, you'll be straight.
So, Mike, you're segueing perfectly, because many people looked at your situation at Texas, where you missed some time because of the internet says it was improper conversations with Rich Paul, super agent Rich Paul. This was early in his career. However, when I look at that situation, it reminds me so much of the early stages of NIL before NIL became a thing. You have not publicly talked about that situation and what happened. Can you tell me more about what happened back then? Now?
To be honest with you, when you look at my story, I've always been a gym rat. So my whole thing was I've always wanted to, first of all, be around what I want to be, which should never be a problem in any field. A lot of people take internships to want to work at Ernest and Young or work at Amazon. You start this way. So I didn't see where the problem was. First of all, I had a relationship with my friends from childhood. So these are people that I've known as far as Tristan and going out to Ohio to work out now. Of course, his situation changed. He went to the NBA the year before prior to. So that's what it was, is the fact that I was around a lifestyle that I wanted to be around. No one gave me any proper benefits. I was just working out with them in a workout, and they said that that was not necessarily allowed, and they suspended me for my whole sophomore season, which was insane. We went ahead and got it appealed. And then we ended up playing, I think, 5 games or 10, whatever it may be. Still had respectable numbers, but by then my stock, had dropped and plummeted because of this notion, again, that the media had created, that I took something or they gave me this when, nothing had that occurred. I just went to a workout.
What did you learn from it, and what is your relationship with Rich Paul like now?
What I learned from it is, one, I think my story, because you got to look at it as silver lining, right? To get past anything in life. If you don't, then you're just going to keep going down a rabbit hole that you ain't going to get out of.
Sure.
So for me, it was just a moment of understanding to see where college athletes are today. And when you hear my story, I'm like, okay, I get it. Now they don't got to say, okay, you're liking this, and they can't do that no more because you are a commodity. Before you get to these college campuses, especially when you're All-American and all these things. And then they try to minimize who you are by taking these things away from you and saying you're not necessarily a professional, but you are. You're working 4, 5, 6 hours a day on that craft. And I know professionals that do that. So I'm just happy that these kids are finally not getting exploited like they had been for how many years prior to me. And it took something like my story to have it flip over to where now, you're in college and you can graduate now and stay and not be forced to have to turn professional and finish your education if you would like, and have more options for your future after the game than when we were at my time.
It's interesting. You just finished your coursework. Drake wore your jersey. You have relationships with the Rich Pauls, the Tristan Thompsons, and the Kyries and many other people. To me, this blurs the line between Turtle from Entourage mixed with, really, to me, the ability to potentially be a graduate assistant at a university. What say you?
With me, that's definitely something. Now that I'm actually finishing my classes and finished my final exam today, not easy when you're juggling your own business of, helping the young and coming, my workouts and being a personal trainer, and now jumping into the coaching space. That's something that I know. One, I've seen what goes into winning. Some people don't understand what goes into winning. I think I've been a winner at every single level, from the high school level, novice level to the professional level, and just last year winning a championship. So for me, you have to set a certain culture and standard to be a coach. And I think I just set that within myself that I know will trickle around if I'm a voice of a locker room to the guys that have to step on that court. So if that's a possibility that can come about, and go back to Texas or wherever it may be to become a grad assistant there now that my schooling is over, that's a door that I would never close, because I know the impact you could have on the next generation, because you never know who you're impacting from your day to day. You never know when you might be that one thing you said to one of the kids in that locker room, and that could spark his whole life to have a journey and then embark on doing what he's supposed to do, which is always coming back. That's what I always fall back on. What you've learned and the information you've learned, you're always supposed to give back. And, sometimes it's not like that all the time in our community, but I'm grateful that I could be a spokesman and a voice for that. We need more of that in our community.
Mike, tell me a funny Greg Popovich story.
Oh, I got to. So he loves drinking his vino. If you know Coach Pop, he loves his vino. Mind you, he's a rookie. You don't know much about this lifestyle. Going from college to NBA is completely different. So just the things that you're used to. So, we had team dinner one day, and I remember, he loves his red wine. So, I'm there. I like red wine too. I've always been a wine connoisseur too. I'm an old soul. So, I'm drinking wine. I have my one glass, and he'll be like, that's it. So he'll actually egg you on to keep drinking the wine. And obviously, I drank my wine. And long story short, I was late for the team bus. I've never been that, drunk off wine. So, long story short, by the way, I was late by only an hour, and I was a 4 o'clock bus. 4 o'clock bus. I was supposed to be a 3 o'clock bus as a rook. I was on the 4 o'clock bus. I ended up getting fined, but thankfully, I had a great vets in Kawhi and Corey that took care of that fine for me. But that's just a funnier story of you having to be a professional. Whatever happens the day before, you gotta be ready to go the next day. That's what I learned very quickly. That your coach can be cool with him, and you have some wine, but make sure the next day you're ready to go. And he was laughing at me too, talking about, hey, I was last night. And he's like, don't do it again. Yeah, he's gonna laugh about don't do it again. I'm thinking like, your coach tells you drink wine, you gonna drink it. Not know when to stop. So that's my little funny pop story.
Listen, I don't count people's pockets, but how much was that fine?
Back in the day, it was like 1 to 5, I believe. I didn't see the paper because it was like 1 to 5. I believe it was 1 to 5, but they took care of it for me. They're like, whatever it is, yeah, don't worry, Rook, we got you. But it was 1 to 5, and for a rookie at that point, when you're just in training camp, you ain't get your money yet. So, they took care of it.
Listen, man, one thing I love about doing interviews with guys like you, there's always a story somewhere. I think this is the part of the interview that's gonna move. I think you got Popovich and Kawhi in the same story.
Yeah, I've been blessed. Even that whole organization, RC Buford. Just talk about professional. I feel like if I didn't have that my rookie year, I don't know where I would have been as a player. Just because you learn what it means to be a professional, from being on time, to preparation with your body, being a great teammate, communicating. Because Tim Duncan was my bet at that point when I was a rookie, and just to see his leadership, the way he goes about his business, not much of this. It's showing. And when I got to see the live form, I'm like, all right, cool. I know what it is to be a professional. And it helped me to have a 10-year career all around the world. I think I played all around the world. And hindsight, yeah, it would have been nice to stay in the league, stick in the league, be in the league for however long of a tenure I could have had. But for me to be able to play around the world and have my story kind of be like that, I think was a blessing.
Tell me more about Tim Duncan.
Okay, what you want to know?
I mean, nothing crazy. Just there's a mystique to him. I've had brief conversations with Tim, but you were his teammate, so the dialogue will likely be different. What's his like in a world where we look at Michael, we look at LeBron, we look at Kawhi, we look at even the Allen Iversons of the world? I think Tim Duncan. I've always said this. Tim Duncan is a bowl of oatmeal. It's boring, but it's effective. It's good for you, your cholesterol. It's healthy. It's all of that. But like on a basketball court, or even in practice, and even on the team buses, what were your observations of Tim?
Well, he gave me this key piece of information that I'll share with you. Like I remember after one practice, he goes, "Young fella, come here." You know what I'm saying? Didn't happen, by the way. You know how vets are. They don't got to speak to you once you're a rookie. You got to earn that. Especially in the league. So for him, first of all, to do that for me, I was ready to sponge. So he put me over one day and he's like, you know what? You want to last long in this league, it's about how you treat people and the work that you put in. For when I heard that out of his mouth, you got to think when it's coming from someone's mouth of that stature saying that to you, that goes a long way. So if you hear about me, I always treat people. It don't matter who you are. You can be the janitor. You always hear people say it, but I'm really like that. I don't treat nobody different. If you are holding the door or you're giving me $100 million check, I'm still going to treat you with the same respect that I'm supposed to treat, humanity with as I'm, gracing the earth and I'm living in.
I like that. You're like the Canadian version of Quinn Cook.
Quinn, oh yeah, definitely. I could see that. Quinn's my guy. Quinn is my same class. I actually have a funny Quinn Cook story, if you don't mind. So, around my recruiting, I already knew Tristan and Corey were about to leave. So at this point, I was like, all right, decommitted. Decommitted for a little week it was, but it was a lot of noise when I decommitted at the time. And I wanted to go to Kentucky because me and Anthony Davis, our relationship was close. And Mike Gilchrist, or it was going to be Duke because me and Austin Rivers were very close. So I was supposed to take a visit to Duke that weekend. So when Quinn heard that I decommitted, he calls my phone. You know how Quinn is. He's I don't know how he's connected to everything, but he is. kind of like me. I get this. So he calls me. He's like, Mike, what you gonna do? You gonna go? I'm like, well, I'm supposed to come this weekend. I don't know. He goes, all right, cool. I'm gonna call you back. As soon as he hang up, call him back. This guy commits to Duke because he had a scholarship out, and he was a 4-year guy. This is around the time when Duke wanted their 4-year guys, and it made sense. And one thing I respect about Coach K, who I had a blessing to kind of meet and get to know during the recruiting process, stand-up guy. He's not one of those college coaches at the time that trick you into things, He's really shoot it straight to you. He's like, look, Quentin's a 4-year guy. We can see you potentially being here for 1 or 2, and this is the direction we're going at here. So that's why I have a lot of respect for Coach K and for the Duke program because, like I said, they're doing things the right way and not misguiding these kids like some of these universities are. And then you see the transfers. That's why I'm happy with the protocol because there's so many broken promises that go into these things and people will judge the kids, but not knowing that these kids are getting the short end of the stick because they got lured into something that was not what they wanted. And just like any human being, let's take the human factor. If you're getting lured into something that you don't like, you have an opportunity to backtrack and not be there. So I don't know why these kids get such, I say, hate for wanting to transfer when something is not matching up with their timeline or something that they were told. So that's another one that I'll say for that.
I think it's the LeBron. This is me. I think this is the LeBron effect. Ever since the decision and ever since the transfer portal became a thing and ever since the NIL situation became a situation, I look at college basketball in a way in which guys are pros now.
Yep.
So
I agree.
People get mad because they feel like money and things in the transfer portal are changing the game. But I also look at it like this. Colleges have been making money off of athletes for years. And now because they've taken control of their brand or their destiny, they're mad.
Yep. And it's that old saying, whenever ownership gets spread around, it's always tough. It's the people in power that don't want to give up those positions. We see it day to day at workforces, corporations, the biggest, the mega, the biggest, from the biggest to the smallest. It's always hard for those people to want to remove themselves. But now that the sharings are starting to get, spread out a little bit, it's good because it gives you not only that pride that you're in control of your situation and not necessarily another human being where they can control what you got to do.
And at the end of the day, if they ain't hating, then you ain't it.
There you go. Simple as that.
That part. Brother, you have been a wealth of knowledge. I'm looking forward to seeing you superfluously blow up in the coaching ranks. And
with you, I'll leave it on this. I am retired from basketball. It's been an amazing 10-year run. But first of all, do it with you. I'm comfortable enough to say this. The game has been great to me, and the game will always give what you put in. When you just remember all the time that you did have in the gym. And for me, I'll say to my fellow people that do get to the space when you're ready to give it up, you got to attack something that's going to make you happy because you're going to miss it. It's something that's been in you for such a long time. And this is any retirement in any field. Got to find something else that gives you that fire and that passion, that drive for whatever career you were in for those years to continue to go, because you always got to continue to go in this thing called life. And I'm blessed to have something that I can say that I'm passionate about now in coaching, and I can't wait to see where it goes.
Congratulations, Mr. Retiree.
Let's get it.
And coaching is in your future. I'm wishing you nothing but success.
Thank you. We'll be talking soon on the podium about something like this in a couple of years. Hold this one down. Put this one in the books.
You're ready to go.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, brother.
Yes, sir. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'm going to chat with you soon.
You too.